Hi and welcome back. So over the next couple of weeks I'm going to talk about the research from some of the more enduring or prolonged scientific studies that have looked at resilience and looked at 5 processes that seem to have a strong relationship with our ability to be resilient or mental strength. So when they look at these, they sort of looked at what is associated with resilience, and the 5 things they found, or the 5 processes they found with resilience, is persistence, so our ability to persist; resistance, so resistance to change; recovery, so how well we recover after we've gone through this period of stress; the adaptation, so what changes we make to help us improve for the next period; and then transformation, so how that impacts the way we go forward from there. So for today I'm just going to talk around persistence. So I've spoken around my adventure racing a number of times, sort of thing. So as I move back, or I start to prepare to go to Alaska for the next 1,000-mile or 1,600 kilometre race across the subarctic wilderness, the ability for me to persist for the 20, 25 or even 30 days that it might take, or maybe even longer, maybe I won't finish the race in time, but my ability to persist against the elements, against the environment, against my own fatigue, the pain I go through, or the suffering that I'm under, comes down to a number of factors. So that ability comes down to my own internal sort of choice around being persistent or getting up every day and moving forward. So when I get up in the morning and I'm tired or I'm sore or it's cold outside and I just don't want to go out and face the discomfort of that cold, it's my ability to get up and continue moving forward. So persistence, and that's a choice. So one of the things around persistence is the choice. Plus it's my ability to leverage the internal processes that go on. So when we're doing long duration efforts, it's about how I utilize rest and recovery. It's about how I do my goal setting, sort of short horizons over long horizons when it comes to achievement. It's how I set up the internal environment to allow the neurotransmitters, the hormones, the actual sort of recovery process, both physiologically and mentally, to go through the sleeps that I have. All these sort of things are going to impact my ability to persist every day. And then it's not just persistence throughout the day or throughout these weeks internally, it's externally as well. So it's what resources that I have within the environment that I have access to, any barriers that are there that are going to sort of diminish my ability to access these resources, and the actual capacity or the effectiveness of those resources to help me as I go through. So when I went through last time, I leveraged a lot of resources to allow me to understand how to go back this time. So there may be more snowfall, there may be less snowfall, the temperature might be lower, okay, the temperature might be less, it might be more inhospitable, there might be more severe storms, there could be a number of things, but the resources I've accessed last time to help me this time are going to assist me to get there, or my ability to persist, because the more I reduce the stress that's on me, then the higher my chance of persisting. So it's how I leverage these resources, how I leverage shelter when I need it, how I leverage my own shelter. So it's how I plan my day-to-day meals. It's all these things that I look to access, including the sort of support that's along the way, the villages, the checkpoints, okay, all these sort of things that I utilize and access are going to help me persist when things are difficult. So when we kind of look at it outside of that, so this could be in a corporate environment, this could be within sport, this could be within your day-to-day life. So if your ability to persist is going to come down to the resources that you have access to, any limitations in accessing those resources when you're under pressure or when there's high levels of stress or when it really matters, and how effective those resources are at increasing your capacity. Because when we're under a lot of stress, we reach our tolerance for that stress, and we want to persist through the stress without being forced into any change, or without changing either our internal function or changing our path, or the way we mentally view how we're going to go. So it's how we access these internal and external factors that are going to allow us to persist when things are really difficult. So when we have limited ability to regulate our own internal resources or our internal function, and we can't access any external resources, then it's going to be difficult for us to persist. So if you want to increase your ability to persist under increased pressure when things are really difficult, start to think about what it is within your environment that you are either doing or you're not doing that is impacting your tolerance to endure under this level of stress or pressure without changing, and then what resources you have access to within your environment, and any barriers that you have in accessing those resources. So if you want to improve your ability to function when things are really difficult, or maintain your path without sort of being forced off that path, or without having internal function changed, and a lot of this you can see when you start taking on coping mechanisms, that indicates that the amount of pressure you're under has caused an internal change where now you're changing behaviors to cope. So if you want to avoid all these sort of things, and start to look at what you have within your environment, or what you need to change or sort of introduce into your environment, or what resources you need to start looking at to increase your capacity to handle high levels of pressure or high levels of stress, so you don't start to change when we're in these periods of prolonged adversity, so we can continue to persist the way we are going on the path that we're going on. So I hope that kind of helps. In the next little video, I'll talk around resistance. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch or just leave them in the comments. So until next time, I hope you're able to take something away from that, and you can start to look at what you need to change within your environment to increase your chances of persisting when things are really difficult.